sorry to bring up last weekend again, but you spoke to the kind of grit and determination thing after Boston College. Do you feel like the grit and determination was lacking after kind of getting punched in the mouth early in those games? And was it that grit and determination kind of that was an issue following those opening innings, or was it more physical mistakes?
No, and I don't think. I mean, you could get into an argument no matter what team you're coaching when you're down. How much fight is there, or how much positive energy there? If a basketball team's down, 12 or 15 points, I don't know what the correlation is, but if you're down a good amount, it's not the same vibe as if you're up 7 or 8 runs in baseball. And then the same thing when it's the weather is the way that it is. It doesn't matter if you're winning, losing, tied. It doesn't matter if you're a tough guy, a weak guy. The cold is a factor. So I think there's maybe some debate you could have on how great those two categories were for us. I think if we win 1 or 2 games there, we say we handled those two areas great. And because we didn't, maybe again, you could dissect them a little bit. But as far as just grit on the field and in competing, I don't think that was an issue. If anything, it spilled over a couple times where either there was arguments or guys saying stuff that they shouldn't stay, or just a little bit going overboard the other way as far as grit is concerned.
How do you feel like the team is mentally bounced back this week, particularly some of those guys that are usual starters and didn't start on Tuesday night?
Yeah, I mean, I thought their attitude and energy on Tuesday was great. There was guys who put in extra work before pregame. Pregame was good, even though the lineup had been posted, and everybody wants to play no matter who you are, and everybody wants to pitch. But throughout the game, it was a complete game. And we had that on last Tuesday as well. So maybe that's a good trend. Maybe it was just a good day individually. I've tried to track the correlation between how Tuesday and the weekend goes. And the bottom line is that there is no consistency in that whole deal. So this is a sport where I say it all the time to you guys, there's a heavy amount of repetitions, and you got to play 4 or 5 times a week, at least in college. It's even more in pro ball. So it's not what you can do, but how often can you do it?
Hey, Coach, I just wanted to ask, what's the response that you've seen from Dolander, Burns, and Beam, after they kind of got hit a little early by Missouri last weekend? Have you seen any extra motivation this week leading up to the matchup with Texas A&M?
Not necessarily. I think Beam's situation was unique. He threw the ball well. He made an error. We also made some defensive mistakes behind him. So I think out of the 3 guys, he had kind of the most consistent time on the mound there. Doe was just not himself. I blame a little bit of it on me not recognizing in my post-game interview. I just said from my vantage point, they put really good swings on the ball, and they did. They've got a good lineup. It's much improved. There's some returners, but there's also some newcomers that are good, but they were also hitting pitches that were not located well at all. So I think regardless of how Doe throws this weekend, it's going to be an upgrade. And I think, he's got that first responder quality in him, where he's probably got a little bit more determination to him this week. But at the same time, I think he knows he's capable of better, and hopefully we look back on it and that was a blip on the radar screen. And then Burnsy is unique onto himself as well. Just so good 2 weeks ago, mentality wise. And I think he tried to ramp that up even more. We talk about in business or with our teams, you want to go from good to great. And that's a fantastic philosophy. But in baseball, sometimes good is good enough. And it's do it again, do it again, do it again. Again, that repetition theme, as opposed to, man, I took a good swing. Now I'm going to take the Superman version of a good swing. And so I think, if anything, he might actually gear down a little bit from last weekend.
We'll go to John, and then we'll go back to Ben.
Coach, among the things that you said goodbye to from last year in the team and guys moving on, you had such long-standing vocal leaders like Evan Russell and Luke Lipsius and others. And I'm just wondering, Who are the guys that might be in that role now? Who would be the biggest leaders on your roster right now?
Well, I think it's easier for Camden Sewell to do that now that he's active, and not that he wasn't a leader prior to, but when you're not actually kind of in the fight or getting time during the game, it's difficult to be as vocal or as much of a leader as you want to. I think Christian Scott has put in equal amount of years and time here in our program, and he's kind of gone through a different wave of maybe trying to do too much as a leader early on, and then things didn't go well. Then he kind of dipped a little bit, and now I think things have leveled off where just be true to yourself, be who you are, and you know how things have gone the past few years for you as an individual and as a teammate in the program. You know the league. So for both those guys, I think they have a strong voice. But now we're also deep enough into the year where it's not a crutch to say it's your first year in the program or you haven't been a full-time starter. So guys like Charlie Taylor, Maui Ahuna, that want to be outspoken and want to voice what they have to say, they need to have the freedom to do that. And one thing that was special about those leaders is that was forged over time. And those guys were always leaders in the program. It just, as each year went on, they became more prominent as leaders. But I firmly believe we're in a day and age where you don't have that one. It takes a special Al Wilson. I mean, a guy that's just kind of got all the bases covered and controls the entire locker room. If you land on that, it's great. But I'm willing to bet most college coaches with all their sports say they have several leaders, a guy who keeps everybody focused, a guy who keeps everybody loose, a guy who keeps everybody in line off the field or makes sure everybody's included in things. So I think a variety of leaders is what we need. And it can come from a lot of different guys.
Tony, do you feel like your starting pitching has tried to be too perfect at times, especially as the offense tries to find its groove and as new pieces within the lineup try to adjust?
This last weekend, for sure. You kind of saw it in Burns's eyes right after, we almost scored in the first inning, but we had a quality first inning on offense. He goes out, pops up the leadoff guy, Luke Mann, who's got like 600 career college at-bats and is a talented hitter, and we don't catch it because we lose the ball in the sun. And you almost kind of see like, okay, well, I'll make up for it. And he did it in a good teammate fashion, like, don't worry about it, I got this. But his version of I got this was I'm just going to destroy every hitter. And when you're playing a SEC team, that's not possible. And then, yeah, you see it from other guys. At times on our staff, trying to be too perfect on occasion. But I think really just last weekend, that was one of many things that kind of unfolded into the perfect storm. And I said it to Chris Burke and the other people that will do the telecast on Saturday. Last week was very reminiscent of Lexington, Kentucky, the trip to Lexington, Kentucky last year. Unfortunately, we weren't able to scrap out a win like we did in Kentucky.
We'll go to Eric Kane, then David Pascal, and then Mark Etheridge after that.
Tony, what are some of the challenges that Texas A&M is going to present this weekend? And knowing obviously what happened last weekend, how important is this weekend, knowing that they're all important?
Yeah, I think you got to be careful about putting too much value on something, but you also, it's a balance. You also can't ignore the fact that, we didn't win any games last weekend, but I think the more relevant topic today is we didn't play our best baseball. So there should be motivation to learn from things that we have control over that cause that and improve them or erase them even. But then also have a little bit of that, Roger Clemens competitiveness where if the guy had a bad outing, which was rare, you could take it to the bank. The next one was going to be good. So I think A&M as a club, they go to Omaha last year, and a lot of those guys return, in particular offensively, but also their Friday starter. So the challenge is going to be facing an experienced team. It's no longer a new regime or new faces. There's quality experience there. They've also won some games, so they know what that looks like. And then also last weekend, they play the number one team in the country that on paper and also by performance is ahead of the race of everybody right now. And they won a game. And, that bleeds into a Tuesday win against Rice. And so I'm sure they're as confident as ever. And we have no reason to not be confident, but we don't have the reflection like they do of the last couple games.
Tony, if a casual Tennessee fan, and I'm not sure if there is a casual Tennessee fan, but if they ask you what's wrong, I mean, last year you started out, y'all made history with the 12 straight SEC wins, and you were sweeping teams like 23-6 instead of getting swept. If the casual fan asks what's wrong right now, what do you tell them?
Sure. Well, you hit the nail on the head. A casual Tennessee fan does not exist. It's bleed orange entirely throughout your body, or don't bleed at all. And that's been fantastic, and it's helped us win games. And, part of last weekend is we're on the road. It's challenging wherever you go. When we're at home, we have the benefit of playing in front of those folks. Now, I will say, without disrespecting anybody, some fans are new to college baseball or new to following our program because of last year's team or the years prior, which is awesome. And we love it. As they get to understand the landscape of our game, there's a lot of parity in college baseball. You don't just go to Omaha because you wish it, or you play in the SEC, or you win some games. And I could go on down that road of there's challenges, but fans don't want to hear that. And I don't want to hear that either. You want to see success, and this team is capable of success, but it's going to be in a style that's way different than last year. And I don't want to speak for Mississippi. I have no idea what they have going on, but I know they lost a lot of position guys. Arkansas too. Again, I have zero idea what's going on there, but I assume there's a little different flow to how they're playing, or when they're playing well, who are the guys that are doing it? And when they're not playing well, where's some areas where maybe things could be improved? So ultimately what I'm getting at is we do have our 3 weekend starters back, but we also are fighting a lot of battles that last year's team did not have to fight. And also it was a different group of guys fighting those battles. It was a no doubt 8-man lineup in the field positionally with some really good options at the DH spot that fluctuated a little bit. But for the most part, when kids came to the park, they knew what they were going to do. We knew who was going to do it for us, and it was how good can you be? This year, we're still trying to figure out or get some answers to some questions and become the best version of this team that we can be, and we have not done that yet. So it's different. Just like one of our guys talked about Missouri's team from last year, and I kind of countered with some what I thought were strong points from scouting. It's a different group of guys over there, and they're improved. And we could go on, I've mentioned a few SEC teams. It's the same for everybody. This is 2023. It's not 21. It's not 20. It's 2023. And we're on our journey right now. And heck yeah, I wish there were some things different along the way. But we have in front of us is a Thursday practice and then a Friday game. And we get to do it in front of all those fans that you just talked about.
Thanks.
Hey, Tony, Mark Etheridge. The SEC sent out some stats on the duration of the games, and they were 37 minutes shorter for opening weekend this year than last year. What do you like about the action rules? What do you dislike, and what changes would you like to consider?
Sure. I think the weather might have something to do with that as well. I know in a couple places it was similar to ours, and when you have that type of weather, it just seems to make things go quicker. Maybe people don't want to be outside as long, but no, it's ratcheted up the pace. And I like the fact that there's a little bit more sense of urgency, or a little bit more on task is what I like. But when you set rules in place, there's always going to be, some flexibility that's maybe needed, or reanalyzations. For instance, MLB just added 2 exceptions, I believe. Maybe one's a big swing, or the other one is something else a pitcher might do. So I think people have to look at it. What I don't like, and here we go, I'm just trying to answer honestly. I ain't into politics, and I'm nobody important, so don't go crazy. The cat and mouse doesn't interest me. What I like is I get to turn on the TV and watch 2 Tennessee teams in the Sweet 16. I think there's one other college, maybe you guys know. I'm curious how many other universities can boast that on the basketball floor. And when you get to this time of year, yeah, there might be a replay, or, an official might make a mistake, which they're human, that'll happen. But it is mano a mano, so to speak, and you get to see who is the best on that particular day. The team that wins a tournament isn't necessarily the best team, but who's, the best on that day. That's why I love that stuff. And during COVID, it kind of left us a little bit. So UFC was the only thing I could watch. So Basilio asked me about UFC all the time. And people are like, this guy's not a UFC expert, Basilio, quit asking questions. But that's what I like. I'm not interested in cat and mouse. That's for Microsoft or anything else like that. And that's just direct. I'm not trying to get anyone to read into anything. So I like when a batter stands in the box, he's got his hands on the bat, the pitcher gets his sign, and let's find out who's better. And when it goes like last week, when you're not the better man or the better team, then you get back to work, and then you find out again on the next occasion. And if you do have success and you are the better guy, you get to celebrate. It feels good. It adds confidence. But again, in baseball, you ain't going to figure out or conquer the world. It's, can you do it again on Tuesday or Friday or whatever it might be? So that's my preference.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll take a few more guys. So we'll go to Ryan, Eric, and then finish with Joseph, and that'll be it.
Dolander's gotten off to slow starts, and it feels like a lot of his starts this year. Just, has there been a common theme that you've seen lead to that?
I think part of it is if you remove last weekend, on the whole, it's been, you're facing the top of the lineup. So you're facing some quality hitters. And it's been on a couple of occasions where we could have made a defensive play behind him and did not. Now, it's a team effort. So again, he's contributing to, maybe the guy hit the ball hard and we just couldn't make a diving catch or something like that. But I think across the country, when all baseball games start on Friday, the coaches are going to have their best on base guy, either the 1 or 2 slot, and one of their best hitters in the 3 or 4, or maybe the 2. Everybody varies a little bit. So that's what you're facing in the first inning. And we need everybody locked in on defense behind Doe. He needs to throw his best stuff up there and trust it, because it's pretty good. And they may push one across, they may not. But in combination, that's what we need out of everything. And, it hasn't all been there. I don't think it's been one thing with him or anything crazy like that. It's just been, we need that combination in play. And then if you're going to talk last weekend, whether it's circumstantial, whether it's just that one weekend, I've been very blessed to be around a lot of first rounders or top 5 rounders. And I don't know that I've coached many guys that can go a whole 16, 18 weeks without an outing they wish they could flush down the toilet. And, last week, for whatever reason, was, again, good swings, tip of the cap to the opponent, but it takes 2 to tango, and he just wasn't himself.
Joseph, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, just wanted to ask about Hunter Inslee. It seems like lately he's been getting more opportunities. Wanted to see what you saw from him that's led to some of those opportunities in games and getting field time.
Yeah, I think he's deserving. He's been with us for quite some time. He's had to battle through some injuries. And I think the repetitions or the opportunities are increasing because the way he does things when he's out there. So statistically, I can't rattle off what he's got going on. But when he's out there, if he does make a mistake, it's an aggressive one, or it's one where he's got conviction behind what he's doing. He's not afraid to run into the outfield wall. He's not afraid to compete in the box. So again, regardless of the result, the way he does things is encouraging for the coaching staff, and it makes us want to put him back out there. The other thing is for him, we've talked about kind of that leadership thing. As each day goes by, he comes more and more out of his shell and who he really is. And he's got some personality to him. He's got some fight to him. And again, that's all complemented by, he's got some skill too. It's not like he can't play. So I think as each day goes forward, his opportunities will increase, in particular as he, comes out of his shell is the best way I can say it. But the more he's just true to himself and that personality and ability to play comes out.
All right, that's it for today, everybody. Thanks, everybody.